since we only have 4 members, let's do the Board of Adjustment item last with the hopes that Mike Ralston may show up. Something must have come up. And at the end of that, the board, who's here for the Board of Adjustment variance? Okay. So we only have 4 members. We need 5. So the 5th one, we thought we were going to have 5, but something must have come up for Mike not to have showed up. So we can wait till the end of the meeting and see if he comes. And if not, we'll just have to continue it to the next meeting for you. Otherwise, it's a no. The next month? Yeah, it would be the 24th, no, the 23rd of July. Let's do the regular items, the regular agenda first.
Okay, I call to order this regular meeting of the Minnehaha County Planning Commission. As a courtesy, make sure that all your cell phones are turned off. This meeting will also be broadcast by CityLink, posted on www.minnehahacounty.org for viewing by the general public. Any final action taken on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting, unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, July 2nd at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission for a hearing on Tuesday, July 17th. On or after 9 a.m., meetings of the County Commission are also held in this same room. And also, any action taken on the final development plan will be final tonight. At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. The minutes from the May 21st meeting are included in the consent agenda. Are there any objections from the Planning Commission members to any items listed on the consent agenda? Next, I will read each item on the consent agenda. If any member of the audience objects to any item, please raise your hand, and that item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Item number 1 is the approval of minutes, the May 21st. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 18-27 to transfer 1 building eligibility. Petitioner is Lynn Olson. He's also the property owner. It's approximately 3 miles northeast of Crooks. Item number 3 is a final development plan, 18-01. Petitioner is Eric Willitson. Property owner is Gary Haar, John Haar Family Trust. This is approximately 1 mile southwest of Crooks, and that is for the Hope Harbor addition. Item number 4 is conditional use permit 18-31 to transfer to building eligibilities. It's approximately 2.5 miles east of Baltic. Petitioner is Arlie Brendy. He's also the property owner. Item number 5 is conditional use permit 18-32 to allow a contractor's shop and outdoor storage. This is Tobias Kippis, Orion Rigging, Commercial Ventures LLC is a property owner, located approximately 1.5 miles east of Crooks. Item number 6 is conditional use permit 18-33. This is to allow a bed and breakfast establishment. Petitioner is Pamela Hoffman Degelau. She is also the property owner, located approximately 2.5 miles east of Crooks.
There's
Okay.
a couple of raised, yeah.
So item number 6 will be removed from the consent and moved to the regular agenda.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5.
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion has been made, seconded to approve items 1 through 5. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chairman, you want to dismiss the rest of the...
Oh, I'm sorry. Any of those that have, the items that were passed, you are free to go.
Planning Commission, David Heinold, Planning Department, County Planning Department. Conditional use permit 18-33 is to allow bed and breakfast establishment The property is located at 47291 Renberg Street. As you can see here on the map, it is outlined in red right here. Here's Renberg Street. As you can see, there's some existing residential subdivisions in the area that have been platted, as well as to the south too. And then you can see kind of around that, you've got some farmland along both sides of Renberg Street. And the house, petitioner's house, is located right here where these. So the petitioner has submitted a site plan. So the bed and breakfast establishment is for 1 day a week and weekend stays, approximately on about a 5-acre lot, 4.72 acres. The existing house, as you can see in the site plan, as I mentioned in the location map, is here's the house, and there's off Renberg Street, there's a horseshoe driveway that exists. There's some trees that are located in between two driveway entrances that are connected to Renberg Street. As you can see right there, the petitioner has a couple of, there's not, on this map you can't see it, but there are a couple of accessory buildings that are located on the property. There's one located just off the driveway. This is the westmost driveway. And if you go directly south there, the garage is right there. And you'll continue and keep going. There's also another outbuilding, which is roughly a 20-foot by 30-foot building. The petitioner has described in using this as a temporary bed and breakfast establishment, which is also included in the petitioner's request to allow the bed and breakfast, as well, or in the interim in completing an addition on the house, which is currently under progress, which the petitioner has pulled a building permit for an addition for additional bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. The 20 by 30 accessory building was permitted with a building permit in 2003 for personal storage. Just a little bit of information as far as that. So the petitioner has set forth their narrative plan for that building. I took some pictures out at the site. As you can see, this is Renberg Street. You can see the cornfield or the bean field off to the north of Renberg Street. This is looking downhill towards that existing subdivision in the background, looking towards the east, towards the river in the background behind that subdivision. This, as you can see, there's a little glimmer of that eastmost driveway, the horseshoe. As you can see, there's a little bit of a hill here. So if you're looking west back on Renberg Street, there is a tree line right here. As you can see, I'm standing where the driveway would be, where that westmost driveway is. And I mentioned that accessory building that's located at the entrance to the driveway. As you can see, here's the address sign for that driveway. The house is located right here, the blue. And then here is that 20 by 30 shed that the petitioner proposes to use as part of the bed and breakfast establishment in this request. Just giving you a view of that. This is looking towards that south property line. There's an existing tree belt, which is actually on the neighboring property owner's property, not on the applicant's. And then this is looking back towards the west, towards the river in the background. Here is the petitioner's house on that site plan. You can see off to the left of this image, the petitioner has included some areas for parking in the driveway, and you can see the addition right there, proposed addition. Well under progress there. This, on the site plan, the petitioner also noted some extra parking area. This is that tree line along Renberg Street. This would be what the petitioner has described in the narrative as lined and painted and like a crushed concrete mix, painted lines for parking to delineate where the guests can stay. And that's all the pictures that I have on that. Just really quickly going through just a broad overview on just the criteria that you would go through in determining conditional use permit criteria. So number 1 is the effect upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for uses already permitted and upon property values in the immediate vicinity. this property. So upon completion of the house addition, the petitioner plans to only utilize that 20-foot by 30-foot detached accessory building for personal storage. As I've mentioned, the narrative does explain that the petitioner plans to construct the addition on the house so that they can allow additional time to be able to to accommodate the requested bed and breakfast establishment. The effect upon the use and enjoyment of other residential properties in the immediate vicinity should not be negatively affected by the proposed house, as well as the 20-foot by 30-foot detached accessory building with the living quarters in it. 2, the effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. As I mentioned, the existing area is already well developed with single-family subdivisions, and the land remainder around that is farmland. It's unlikely that the proposed use for a bed and breakfast will negatively impact the normal and orderly growth and development of those vacant properties. 3, that utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities are provided. The site plan has indicated that the applicant has provided all of those, the parking necessary for guests that come to the site, as well as the zoning ordinance and other. They would have to meet the state laws for bed and breakfast establishment. 4, that the off-street parking and loading requirements are met. The parking is there. There's no parking that would be allowed in the street, so the petitioner would have to accommodate that on the site itself, in front of the driveway and in that area as you see in the picture on the screen. 5, that measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, and lighting, inclusive of lighted signs, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance. So the proposed operation of a bed and breakfast establishment does bring possible noise disturbances to surrounding property owners with guests coming to the site, which is not the typical normal compared to just this being a single-family dwelling for just one family, multiple people over time. 6, health, safety, general welfare, and health, safety, general welfare of the public in the comprehensive plan. So with it being said that the staff would like to note that the subject property, it only allows one single-family dwelling on the property, so staff has proposed to add a condition on the permit for the 20 by 30 detached accessory building only being used as personal residential storage as it was indicated in the original building permit. Once the addition on the existing house that is currently there meets final occupancy and all the above conditions are met with state laws and the conditional use permit itself. And so this would allow that conversion of that detached accessory building to personal storage of only household goods and maintenance equipment once the single-family dwelling addition is finished. So staff finds that the proposed bed and breakfast establishment is an appropriate land use for the surrounding area consistent with the goals and policies of the Envision 2035 Comprehensive Plan. Staff recommends approval of conditional use permit 18-33 with the following conditions. 1, that conditional use permit 18-33 shall allow a bed and breakfast establishment. 2, that the property shall adhere to the submitted site plan. 3, that a sign may be posted on the property with a building permit not to exceed 16 square feet. 4, that all outdoor lighting shall be of a full cutoff and fully shielded, designed to prevent direct spillage of light beyond the property boundaries. 5, that the house and 20-foot by 30-foot detached accessory building must have functioning smoke and carbon monoxide detectors as required by the 2015 IRC as adopted by Minnehaha County. 6, the proprietor must obtain any applicable South Dakota sales tax that is required. 7, that the proprietor must obtain the required lodging license with the South Dakota Department of Health. And 8, that the 20-foot by 30-foot detached accessory building shall only be used for personal residential storage once the single-family dwelling meets final occupancy and all of the above conditions are met for short-term rental. 9, that the Planning and Zoning Department reserves the right to enter and inspect bed and breakfast establishment at any time after proper notice to the owner to ensure that the property is in full compliance with the conditional use permit conditions of approval in the Minnehaha County zoning ordinances. And I've had a little bit of discussion with the Mapleton Township supervisors about the Renberg Street and some potential concerns that have arisen over the 2 driveways that exist at the property, because one of them does sit a little bit higher, as you saw in the pictures, on the hill. You can see the westmost driveway, you can see traffic coming from both directions better than you can if you were to leave the eastmost driveway, because you've got a hill there, and there's been some concern from neighboring property owners and just the general traveling public about people veering off the road, and because people not being able to see people turning out of the driveway, because it's a hidden driveway and there's trees there, and there's 2 driveways that are within probably about, as you can see, the trailer and the car there, it's probably about 30 or 40 feet. So not that much. So staff proposes that recommend adding condition number 10, that guests of the bed and breakfast establishment only be allowed to enter and exit using the westmost driveway approach. The entrance and exit shall be clearly marked with directional signage. And I have talked with the township, and the township is comfortable with adding a condition such as this. And I've also talked with the applicant and made them aware of that, and I also sent you the concerns of the neighboring property owners. And if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Any questions for David?
David, so is the concern just people pulling out of that driveway or people pulling into that driveway?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Anyone else?
David, do you happen to know, has there been any accidents right at either one of those entrances or in the past several years?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thanks, David. Is the petitioner here? Will you please come forward, state your name and your address, please?
Hello, I'm Pamela Hoffman Degelo. My address is 47291 Renberg Street in Renner, South Dakota, 57055.
Any questions for the petitioner?
Getting back to the exit entry,
Yes.
do you have any problems with just using the one as,
No, I wouldn't. And in fact, when we did put that lower, which would be the easternmost driveway in, back in 1999, I said to move it further down just because it would give someone time to get across and make their move if they were committed to the turn, and it would give that person coming over the hill more time. And I did speak with Don Oschlager, and I also spoke with, I'm trying to think of his name. One moment. William Riesling, the 2 Mapleton Township supervisors. And Don Oschlager and I talked quite at length yesterday evening. And I said, I'm not opposed to using that westernmost, the one higher on the hill, at all. I do think it's going to bottleneck, but I wondered about putting signage in, because I'd be concerned about safety too. I'm wondering about putting signage on the lower easternmost that says entrance, and then the top would say exit only. So no one could come in that way. They'd have to always come in from the lower one and exit that way. That would work fine too. Or the other option we also need there is a speed limit sign. I just had guests there this past week. Friends of mine were out visiting, and they were trying to pull out there, and somebody came barreling over the hill in a BMW, just like they always do. And so a speed limit sign would be wonderful as well right there. I grew up on gravel roads, so I go quickly too. It doesn't scare me, but people should be slowing down a little bit. So yeah, no, I'm not opposed to using the westernmost, but I think it might bottleneck a little, but
Where are people going?
down to the neighborhood down below.
Okay.
Yeah.
township board can also set the speed limits. I know in Split Rock, there are a whole bunch of places got reduced to 25.
Under my better judgment, okay?
Don mentioned putting in one that's maybe it says 15 because that usually means people will go about 30. We can all relate to that probably. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Did you mention anything to the township supervisors about maybe putting a speed limit sign in?
Yes, he and I talked about that at length.
Be in favor, or would they say it's your cost?
Are you Don?
I'm Don Oshlag, I wanted to make the township supervisor.
Don, would you come forward and state your name and who you represent? Some of us know, but not all of us.
Don Oshlag, Mapleton Township Supervisor. Pam and I did discuss this. I've discussed it with county. If Pam was to apply for a driveway permit today, that driveway would not have got put in. We have a 650 feet sight zone, so that driveway probably would not make that. And I've asked her to remove it, and she asked about signage. My concern with that is, as it is with all signs, as I stated, we have 17 housing developments in our township. They are all reduced to 15 miles an hour. And she's right that we can get them down to about 30 with that. So some of the housing developments that we have, there are inbound roads, much like Renberg is. And we will look at a resolution to lower the inbound to 25 or 35. And that will help her area, but I don't believe that alleviates the problem of the sight line with the driveway. So we would like to see the driveway either omitted, removed, not being used in this case.
Any other questions for him? Okay. If you guys want to sit on, we'll see if there's anybody else out there that either is a proponent or an opponent. Would you like to come forward, state your name and address?
Hi, my name's John Hack, 25760 Packard Lane. There's a map up behind you. I'm the triangle right next to the red rectangle. I guess I can't say I'm opposed or in support. I came here to listen. I got the notice in the mail that this was going to be done. I'm not familiar with the process, so I just got the paperwork as I got into the meeting here. But my concerns are, when I read the mission, the purpose that Pam wants to put this property to, and it's commendable. But my concerns are sort of mission creep concerns. What she wants to use it for currently, that's not a condition. So we have Packard Lane is a peaceful neighborhood, and Pam knows she used to live on Packard Lane in our neighborhood. But it's very peaceful. We paved our road. We did that at our own expense. County didn't pay a nickel for that. We don't have street lights. We don't have sidewalks. At night, when you're out in your backyard, it's quiet. I've heard voices, not loud problem noises, but I've heard noises coming from that property, and I thought it was coming from that shed, and I was wondering what was going on back there. So when I got it in the mail, that kind of answered that question. If the purpose is limited to what Pam's goal is today, I don't think I have any opposition to it. But I don't want this to become a party on the prairie. You know, we've got the sports complex a few miles from us. Will financial concerns change the mission of this? And we started having sports teams staying back there. There's not a limit that says no outdoor amplified music or entertainment, and I sure want to make sure that that's not what's happening in this property. A quiet room for people to stay that have relatives who are going through health issues. Wow, that's a good purpose. I don't want it to become any more than that. I'd throw out there that the emerald ash borer has been discovered in Renner in our city park. We're just a short bit from that. Our development has a lot of ash trees, and I'm not a tree guy, but my concern too is if we start losing our trees and then we have a bed and breakfast right in the back and that turns into a loud bed and breakfast, it's going to be just like having a party right next door. So that's my concern. If this can be changed to have conditions that somehow magically solve those problems, or at least try to solve those problems, I don't have opposition to this quiet plan that I'm hearing about here today. Questions?
Any questions for him?
Is this your lot right here, where the red dot is?
Yes, that's me. And you know, I don't think that what will happen is this business will steal property value from me, but that's very concerning to me. And that's why I want the body to think about putting limits on this as to how it can be used.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would care to speak?
Hi, I'm Deborah Bussman. This is Alan Bussman, my husband. We live at 25742 Packard Lane. So we're directly, like, if you look at the white from the red square, we're 1, 2, 3, we're kind of veers off a little bit. More to the right.
Down here?
No, up.
Up.
Up and over.
Right.
The other right, yeah.
Right there.
Right there,
Uh-huh.
okay. We moved out to Packard Lane going on almost 2 years ago, and we moved from Sioux Falls because of the serenity, just like the other neighbor is saying, and for the peacefulness out there. We've got a beautiful grove, a beautiful lot, a very serene neighborhood. It's very calm, very quiet, lots of wildlife out there. We don't want to see that destroyed, and I too have heard voices and noise and music, and it's coming out of nowhere. But we have this beautiful deck that sits out in this huge grove, and it's just so beautiful out there. We don't want to see that destroyed, so we're definitely in opposition of this. We have also learned recently, upon getting this is already a functioning bed and breakfast, which we're quite disturbed about, because I'm not sure, has she had any kind of business, kind of like licensure does it take to run this, or she has a website, she's already rented out the property, there's people that put reviews on of her website, it's called airbnb.com, you can rent the property out. We're worried about our property value going down, of course, all the noise level, and this is a housing development, this is a family place to live. Our area's like in a horseshoe, and it's just a beautiful area to live, we just don't want to see it destroyed. That's our main concern. Do you have any questions at all for us at all?
Thank you.
One thing I forgot to mention too, the wildlife out there. There's just tons of wildlife, and we have just everything coming through there. And if you start knocking trees down, you're gonna run all the wildlife out of there too, and building a big building, okay? Thank you.
Anyone else care to speak?
Hi there, my name's Greg Albing. I'm a good friend of Pam. We play in a band together. For 2 years, I was a music teacher up in Wilmot, South Dakota. I like to think that because of having the privilege of teaching the middle schoolers every day, that I've come to become a somewhat of a keen judge of character, shall we say. So getting to know Pam has certainly been an exciting and just a good experience for me to be able to have sort of a home away from home to visit when I need to. I see Pam as a mom because she reminds me of a lot of my mom. And to that end, two things that they share in common. One is a love of the beauty of nature, so I don't believe that would in any way impede on any of that. And also as they both contain the just about zero tolerance for any kind of antics. So I do believe that if there were any loud tenants, that Pam would shut that down straight away. I have been over to visit a couple times, to grill a couple times, and the voices that I've also heard voices, but they haven't been from any of the tenants on the property. They've been from other neighbors themselves. So I can't say for sure if that coincides with any of the other times that any of the other neighbors would have heard, but I do realize that, you know, sound can travel pretty well. And I know that with that in mind, Pam would certainly be acutely aware of that and want to mitigate that as much as possible. So, thank you.
Anyone else care to speak, either for or against?
My name is Rayla Otto, and this is my husband, David Otto. And we're in the property next to the triangle, so, right there.
Yep.
Yeah. So what happens in her property impacts our property value. If you can see in this picture, her property is surrounded by houses, and then proposed kind of business being placed back there we're kind of against. I do know that she has rented out the second building in the past, because I have talked to a renter. And also, the pictures don't really show, and I don't know if I can show you what I see, but there is, behind the first house, there is right now a camper, and then a car, and then a table, and then another cabin. And the cabin right now is, I went up and measured, it's about 6 feet from our property line, and so it's not just one building, there's already another existing building there. And there is direct access through a fence into our property, and one of my concerns is if people will wander into our property, and I'm concerned about Pam's safety of just opening up her property to other people. And then the safety of the people in our neighborhood as well. There is also a large electrical line, Sioux Valley Electric, on the property line between our properties, and I was told at one time there shouldn't be any property near that line, and that cabin that wasn't seen in your pictures is 6 feet from there and 3 feet from the other people's property. And the other thing is, we have the property that has a lot of trees, but probably 50% of them are ash trees. And so I think eventually everybody in our neighborhood will see her property because she lives on such a high hill. And so our dining room window looks right into her property. So what she does on her property impacts, I think, our property value.
Madam Chair?
Jeff?
Ms. Otto, where is that electrical line at? Is that on the property line, so to speak?
Yeah.
Parallel with Renberg Road?
Yeah, see that, see where the triangle is and then
Yeah.
the red line there? It's right there,
So it goes east and west along that line we see there?
yeah.
Okay.
And would you mind looking at the other developments or the picture from my backyard, what it looks
You
like?
know, could we put on the overhead? Give us a minute here.
I don't know if you can from my phone or
He
not.
he can project it on this screen, but it'll take a minute to warm up.
Can you warm that up real quick? Excuse me.
It might take me that long to get the pictures.
And so when you say that your window looks straight over at hers, what's the distance there?
it's quite a distance, but, because of the height of our house, you can see it from a long distance around. I didn't take a picture from my dining room window, but we've, over the years, have planted a lot of trees back there to try to decrease, kind of make ours more, I don't know. Maybe I have to turn it this. Well, right here is a cabin, so, and,
Oh, okay, that looks better.
Now you can make it out.
Pull it down a little bit.
Down.
There you go.
There, okay.
and then these trees there are our trees, and so there's where the cabin is.
We never really heard the discussion as to what the plan was for
Like where
that-
these people
for
gonna
that
use the
cabin.
restroom.
Is that gonna be one of the bed and breakfast cabins, or, but that's like just a couple of feet from, I mean, it's a few feet from our property line. On the left are our trees, and I guess also concern was, people have kids, and then if kids are, maybe they would wander into our property and maybe get hurt. So there's a lot of trees there, it's really thick. So I guess
And this is
We didn't-
another piece, another look at the property from the south side, us side looking in. And then,
going east.
and then here's her property, here's the house that, I know people have rented before. And here's, oops, I don't know. And here's, there's a camper here, some cars, and then over here further is where that other cabin I was
Other
mentioning.
cabin is just right next to our property, so
Like right here, this cabin.
So looking at that picture there, where's your property line?
Right,
to the
right
left.
next,
Just to
just
the left.
right
To
where
the
that,
left,
about
yeah.
3 feet from there, 6 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah. The trees are ours.
yep. Lilacs and lots of kinda,
And I was up there tonight and there's somebody playing a saxophone in that, I think it was from this house, I didn't go up there, but, I think that's already been rented out before, so, I don't know, I'm kinda concerned about what's actually gonna be developed and how much.
or if more possible cabins like the small third one are gonna be moved on. I mean, we don't really understand all the implications behind the bed and breakfast, what other things might happen. So I guess that was our concern. If she's gonna add more of the rooms in her house, then I guess they would be there, but I guess we aren't really certain.
And I don't know if there's a bathroom facility in this other house or where they'd even use that and where is she gonna feed these people? I just don't know.
We'll have the petitioner come forward again and see if she can answer some of your questions. Thank you.
You could take your phone back.
One thing I would love to address is that it's been called a bed and breakfast over and over and over, and I know that that's what the county has to call it, but because that's what the terminology is for this, but it is actually Airbnb, which means that it is, all the guests are monitored, they are screened. I have criteria out there for the people that are allowed to come to my place and pre-approved, and if they don't meet that criteria, I'm allowed to, if I want to, let them come and stay or not. I've declined people. I have people that come that are anniversary couples. Let's see, anniversary couples, working professionals. All of them are. I just had a music editor and a jazz sax player. They are recording music, and I walked in, knocked, and they said, I said, this music is good enough for Sirius Watercolors, Sirius XM Watercolor Smooth Jazz. And they said, that's what we're doing. We're recording. I'm from California. He's from Sioux Falls. And I said, great. I have a music studio and a sound booth in my home, and I'm all supportive of you. Great, keep going. Yeah, he was playing saxophone, but I don't know that he was playing outside, but whatever. By the way, just recently, and yes, I have done this as Airbnb since February, because everyone I know that does Airbnb doesn't even have a license. And so I didn't know that you needed one, and I had gone to the county and talked with David and also Kevin about getting a permit for when I get the addition done on my home to do the bed and breakfast type, or the Airbnb thing there, to help me do my mission that was addressed by Dave Hack. But currently, I'm using that little building back there to do the Airbnb thing, which I didn't know I needed a permit for, but doggone it, yeah, I went right to get one then. And that's what this is about, to get that one, for that permit to do that. But 2 weeks ago, I just had a father and his son here from West Virginia, here for the Stampede Youth Hockey Goalie Camp. And he is actually retired police officer, injured and got off the force and took up bagpiping. He is the man who plays the bagpipes, Amazing Grace, at the top of the Vietnam Vet Memorial for the past 20 years. These are the kind of people I've been hosting, and every person has just been amazing. I've received 5-star ratings from everyone. I rave about the tranquility of my area and the serenity of it, and I absolutely want to maintain that. I had no idea about the ash tree epidemic that it sounds like it's coming up and everything too, but I'm willing to plant trees on my side also. That little building out there in the back is a playhouse. My dad built me a playhouse when I was 11 years old, and it was 12 by 18 with 3 light switches, 2 light switches for 3 light bulbs. I said, Dad, why do I have 3 light bulbs in here? He said, well, because that's your back bedroom. My dad built everything big. He built my sons a little sandbox in my backyard, and it was, 8 by 16, I think. Huge. So because my dad did that, and they never covered over the 2x4s in my little playhouse, I grew up, I studied out there, I practically lived out there all growing up in my high school years, and that's why I have designed my home, I designed my barn, I designed the building back there, and what came on my property right now is a playhouse. I don't want water in it, I don't want propane in it, and it is for playhouse. And I'm 51 years old with a heart condition, and I'm trying to make sure that I've got everything in order for my sons. And I know that what my son wants eventually is a little building that he can move on to another property. And so I just had put into it the electrical for a stove range that I don't want. I will not have a stove range in there ever, but it's wired only for my son. I just asked him today, can you cover over it with sheetrock? And then my son will know, hey, when you move it someday, when I'm gone, it's movable. The little building that Rayla was wondering about, that little cabin, that little playhouse thing, it's a barn, old hickory playhouse, that there will be a thing where he can put in a stove range someday. It's not for me, it's for my son. So, and as far as knocking down trees, boy, I don't want any trees gone. I love where I am, and I love the wildlife as well. I make sure I market Strawbale Winery down the road. I market the Safari Grill. I tell people all about the history of our area, that Charles Lindbergh landed right down there in the flat. That was our airport before it was moved 3 miles south to where our airport lies now. I tell them about the green wooden bleachers down the hill in the Renner baseball diamond, and tell them that the Renner team is one of the top ones in the state, always was. And I just promote our area. I tell them about the Renner Lutheran Church that is the eldest church in our state. Moved 3 times until it finally resides right here in Renner. So I tell them about the richness of the area, and people absolutely just appreciate what we have. So I'm the last person that wants to make any noise or any problem. And in fact, I'm a musician, and my whole goal is to help people. And I had talked before, maybe to one of my neighbors, about I would love to have a concert on my property, maybe once a year, to raise money, and I have all these musician friends that would play for free, just to raise money for one family, because I know a family that needs it bad right now. But if that would be an issue with my neighbors, I would never do that. I would never do it, just because I do value my neighbors. I could have moved. When my ex left my kids and me 15 years ago, I could have moved. And the only reason I stayed was because of my neighbors, like Dave and Rayla, Dave and Darla Ling, the Brendys over there, and the Dykstras down there, because they rallied to me. And I thought, I will never go anywhere than here. So I totally value their opinion, and I'm happy to make sure that all my guests are quiet. The Airbnb is only to help me fund this. But I've never had anyone that was low caliber. They've all been wonderful people, very good-hearted people, just seeking a quiet place that's homey. So,
Pam, I don't think you answered their question, though. Do you rent out that playhouse at all?
yeah, I've been renting it out since, let's see, February. I housed a person from church as well.
Any other questions for her?
Yeah, I
Commissioners?
got probably a couple.
Doug?
Is there I saw a camper in that.
Oh, that's mine.
Okay. So
It's 1965 Jet.
Yeah, I was just wondering,
Yeah, that's
is there a
me.
spot for hookups for
Nope,
campers? And there
that's
will
me.
never be. Okay.
No. And my garage is so full of stuff from my parents' home. My dad died 2 years ago. My mom died 16 years ago. And so my garage is full, and that's me parking all my stuff elsewhere, because I can't stand my yard. Looks like a used car lot. So just as soon as my addition is finally done, which should have been done a year ago, but for reasons, who knows, God knows, it wasn't done. Those will all be able to be parked inside, and that little spot back there is just for my camper and my playhouse.
Okay.
So
Then the red building, is there water, plumbing, heating in that
there is,
septic
yes.
tank?
It all shares the same septic,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But that will go back to just personal,
Right.
yeah, storage. My grandma's switchboard is in there, my other grandma's piano, my parents' stuff, my first, toys, classic toys from my childhood and my kids', so.
And then this is just, as I'm sitting here,
Mhm.
you have a lot of neighbors around there.
Mhm.
And I'm sure in time, some will have younger children, maybe there are some young children there that already, that they're gonna want to be in band. And they probably will be playing, and you will hear their noise, and it may not be the prettiest noise when they're starting out. So, just because you hear some noise right now, I don't think that's a big item at all.
Yeah. Well, since I'm a musician, I'd love to hear it. But no, I understand the noise thing, and I don't want the noise either. I want to make sure that all my guests have peaceful, relaxing time. What I eventually want is people coming out like my parents. I did write that in that little message to the committee, that when my mom had cancer treatments in Minneapolis 16 years ago, they would have spent 6 weeks of hotel. Driving in from Watertown, where they had retired from Redfield, onto the lake there, they would drive 4 hours in on Sunday night for that 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. chemo treatment that happened Monday morning, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then they'd go home. And my aunt and uncle lived there, thank goodness, or my parents would have paid so much. And that's the thing, when people come here to our city, they pay for every meal out. They pay for a hotel. My job, as I see it, my purpose here is to take all that away from people. They can just come out, and I want them to have quiet, trees, all the critters. We even have skunks, raccoons, we have deer. I've asked if I could put a salt lick back there so I can bring more deer, and they said, as long as you're not hunting. I said, I don't hunt. So I love it too. That's what I want to share with people, but I want to give that to people for healing. The Airbnb is only to help me fund it, but that's what it is.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions for her? Scott?
I need to discuss something. So at this point, I'm not comfortable moving forward with this request, because if you look at, this was and I had this discussion with Pam. I asked for a specific site plan of what was going to occur on that property, And now tonight, it has become aware to us that not only is she using the building that says outbuilding, whatever that says, Airbnb on it, there's also this playhouse that is also being used as Airbnb or is being rented out, and that's not shown on this site plan. If you read through the narrative,
No, there's nothing in the playhouse.
I asked Pam if you were renting it out, and you said that you were renting out that playhouse as part of the B&B.
I'll show you a picture of it that I took this morning. It's got nothing in it. They just put wiring in it, just like my playhouse when we grew up.
So my concern is that if you read through the narrative, what she provided, it only says, it continually says, my outbuilding. And it appears that there are more than one outbuilding that's being used for the activity, and that concerns me. And we didn't really review it under the assumption that there were multiple buildings that are being used. So I'm a little bit apprehensive of moving forward. I think we need a revised site plan, and I think we need to get a better handle on exactly what's going on out there. So that's my concern.
Scott, are you asking for a deferral?
That's what I'd like.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to have one more person talk, and then I'm going to close the floor. Go ahead. You can come forward.
I'm Deb Bussman, I was up here before. We have pictures that this is, she hasn't had a permit, and it's been rented out since November of 2017. And I've got the website pulled up here, and it's fully functioning as a bed and breakfast. Our other concern is that the one building has not been used for storage, but it's been used as a bed and breakfast. And as a family place to live, it's a housing development, it's not a business district out there, so, for the development piece of it. Do you want to see the pictures of this? I have the website pulled up.
I don't have a website.
It's all right on here, and it's under her name. It's been rented out. There's reviews on the property since way back when.
I'm not sure that that's necessary with what we've already heard
Okay.
at this point.
Okay, because it's all right here, so, thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, your response?
Well, so Scott, what about building eligibilities and stuff on this property? I mean,
The use as the bed and breakfast, she's not, there's only one building eligibility there. And if you read through the staff report, I think what we were trying to tell you was she was gonna be able to use that red, the red outbuilding that's shown here that says outbuilding Airbnb. She was gonna be able to use that as her Airbnb until she finished her addition. David showed you the pictures of the addition that's being constructed. If you read, I think it's condition number 8, it said that once that addition is done, then she would no longer be able to use that red building for the Airbnb.
which is the small house, right?
Yeah, which is, this house.
That one, yeah.
So it was our understanding that this was being used for Airbnb. We contacted Pam, told her to come in and get the permit for the conditional use permit to operate the bed and breakfast. It was our knowledge, or our understanding, this was the only building that she was using for her Airbnb establishment. Now tonight, we find out that she's also using the playhouse for housing people. And that is beyond what we were told. I just think that we need to get a grasp of really what's going on out there and make it clear that when her addition is done, that the playhouse, this red house, none of those are gonna be used for bed and breakfast purposes. Everything's gonna be, all of her activity is going to take place in that addition or in the existing house. That's the intent of where we wanna get this request at the end. I mean, I wanna make sure I know how many buildings out there are being used for bed and breakfast purposes, so.
Okay. You want to come forward again?
I just visited with Scott Oshner. He was gonna come out and just see, we just wired the little playhouse, the little old hickory building for the wiring, for the electricity. It is not for anyone to ever stay in it. So, that's, yeah, and for anyone to say that anyone's been in there, and they have pictures, they were on my property then.
But I just asked you, Pam, if you were using that for,
No, I'm not using that for Airbnb. The red outbuilding right there, that's Airbnb. That's my only Airbnb. And the November posting was my brother signing me up for Airbnb, saying, Pam, you need to make money with that thing. Everybody's doing Airbnb. And I said, Bill, I don't have it ready. And he said, nope. I'll post a thing. So he posted a review. That's my brother in November of 2017, Bill and Marta Hoffman. And then I didn't have anyone there till February. I didn't know I needed a permit for that one, but I got one right away when they mentioned it, so, or that's why I'm here. That's what this is, so.
but it's your intent that once you get your addition done, the outbuilding that is red,
That doesn't go to anybody.
but
That's
it's
me,
not who
yeah.
it's go to, it's how you're going to use it.
Yeah, just for the storage stuff.
For yourself.
All
Otherwise,
all my
you stay.
stuff. I have stuff. I have a lot of stuff from my parents. Yeah. A
Madam
guy from my
Ma'am,
church.
you need to come forward if you have anything to say.
We are recording this, actually.
Okay, I just was,
Oh, sure,
Pam and I have been good friends, and our kids went to school together.
yeah.
But I do know of somebody, one time I went for a walk, and I asked him, and he said, yeah, that he rents that red building. So I think she has rented it out. It was a
Yeah.
pastor.
It was a pastor. It was Dallas, yeah.
I thought it was like a mark, but it was years ago.
We know that she's renting.
Okay,
out the red.
okay. I think that's a consensus of what we're hearing too. Commissioners, you have any further questions for her?
I guess I'd like to know if you're all right with omitting that east driveway. I guess I do see that as a concern from.
Yeah, I mean,
To me, I drove by it and I come both ways, and to me, I just assume not have it there, period, I
Yeah.
guess, for safety reasons.
I'm okay with that too. I always told my sons to leave out the top one, just in case
Yeah.
someone's barreling over the hill. So it's a safety concern for me too. It has been since we put it in. So, yeah. As long as I can maybe widen that westernmost one somehow,
That's
I don't know
up to
about
you, the
widening it.
township,
I guess I
but-
can't move a tree. But as long as it doesn't become a bottleneck, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to be a danger either. That's fine.
Okay, I guess, I'm gonna close the floor. I think that we've had enough discussion. Scott, are you,
I'm fine.
okay,
If you wanna take action on it, I was getting confused myself because suddenly we have this playhouse that I thought was being rented and, you know, where we really were on that, I'm not sure. So it appears she's not renting it, it's only the red house, little red shed thing, until she gets her addition done. And I think that's how it's worded in condition number, 8.
Yeah.
That once her addition is done, she's no longer able to rent out the red accessory structure that she's using for Airbnb that's shown on that site plan.
okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I
Jeff?
recognize that you've closed the floor, but I wonder if the folks that had concerns, Mr. Happ, the Bosmans, the Ottos, if there's something that could be done that would make this a better project from their perspective, if there's something that, you know, do we need a fence? Do we need something like that that would, you know, keep her guests on her property, so to speak, or is that something we need to consider? I see some nodding heads.
I guess I'll open the floor. Would you have any personal opinion, either or? I mean, there's plenty of trees there, I think. I'm thinking about a fence. I mean, I will tell you that a fence isn't gonna hold back any sounds, no matter how high it is, or how wide it is, or how long it is. And I agree with Jeff. Yeah, come back up. State who you are again, please.
I'm John Hack, the Triangle Man. And I disagree a little bit about that fence issue because we place fences along, we see them along the interstates and places to separate car noise from residential areas. A wooden privacy fence would probably deflect sound. I think that's something we should look at. I agree with Raina. We have a hot tub in the backyard, and during the winter time, if we didn't have our conifers growing there, and they're not quite tall enough yet, but I could see the blue house because it's up on a hill looking down at everybody in the neighborhood on Packard Lane. So privacy is a real issue. What I'd like to see is that this gets deferred long enough so I can get a business card from somebody on the planning commission that maybe we can work on a couple of conditions that will address the concerns of at least the Packard Lane people that were here. And I'll throw this out there so you know. I showed up here just out of curiosity and to learn tonight. I didn't realize that all my other neighbors would have these same concerns. This isn't some orchestrated effort. These are people with real concerns about their homes and the place. We chose that neighborhood for a reason, and we don't want it to be destroyed, even though there appear to be good intentions on Pam's part. We just want to make sure that we protect what we have. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Pam, you want to come forward again? Are you okay, are you willing to probably put up a fence or you come together with your neighbors to try to make some of this to make this work?
If that's, I don't know if they've ever heard any of these people I've had out here since February, but the tree line is so thick and it's so sharp that I have this from one of the trees just trying to mow. That's a scar I'll have forever. Just from, those trees are thick and they're sharp. XL Energy was out last week and they said, wow, these are thick back here. I don't think anyone wants to walk through there. My concern is that I guess I had people on my property taking pictures and stuff. That's fine, but I don't know how they got through those trees because I wouldn't even want to walk through them, especially after that. But yeah, I mean, a fence. I don't know that you need one, but.
Pam, if I might.
Go ahead, Jeff.
And I'm sorry, my house is high, but I have a 2-story home on a hill.
You know, a lot of times communication is a big part of this, and talking to our neighbors
Yeah.
doesn't always happen before we wind up meeting like this, and it's too bad because a lot of these things could be worked out without any problem. And
I was gonna go door to door and just tell people what I was gonna do. I didn't know if I should or not.
having coffee and cake at your place, maybe during the daylight. And I will say to the neighbors that you never know what's going to happen. I mean, change is inevitable, and even in your quiet neighborhood, one of you might have a cute daughter who has 4 teenage boyfriends with crotch rockets that will want to impress her, or maybe somebody else will move in with 4 Dobermans that they let run loose now that they live in the country. Change happens, and it's not very much fun all the time. But I think that there's reason for us to wait a month on this, I'm sorry to say, Pam. But I would encourage you to meet with the neighbors. I would encourage staff to maybe look at the conditions for this a little further. And I guess I'll make a motion to defer action on this for 1 month. Sorry, Pam.
It's okay. That's fine.
I'll second that Scott said, to defer it a month.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to defer continual use permit 18-33. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes.
Okay. And so I come back when?
Next month.
You'll work with David, we'll get you the date, it's the 23rd, 4th Monday.
Maybe I'll skip that meeting. Just kidding.
Okay, we're going to move on. Scott, no old business?
No.
new business either?
Just, we will be, effective July first, there's a state law, is going into effect about having to have, a specific agenda item called public comment. So which we do not have, but, all meetings are gonna have public comment now, and would you like to have that at the beginning or the end of your, beginning?
Of our 3 meetings tonight?
Yeah. And then we will need to take action on the board of adjustment item as well.
I would say at the beginning of the meeting. Is there a limited time too that they can speak?
It's up to you. We
Oh, I
probably
see,
take
okay.
5 minutes.
Yeah, I
The
was gonna
county
say.
commission says 5 minutes, and we rarely have a person speak. We did recently.
Okay.
And if it's okay with you guys, we could continue to discuss that after we let these folks go.
Well, we need to do the board of adjustment item, so you'll need to adjourn as the regular planning commission and reconvene as the board of adjustment, and then we will need to continue that item.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn the regular planning commission
Moved.
meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.